Welcome to Reddit Aliens. What is the scariest theory known to man? Not safe for work. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Cold death of the universe. That the speed at which the universe is expanding is to the point where gravity will never pull it back. Matter will spread out and cool down and decay until everything, everywhere, just stops. Forever. Not really a theory, but being the oldest person alive, there's just something so chilling about the fact that literally every human that existed at that time of her birth is now dead except for her. She's the last of the human race in her snapshot of time. The dual consciousness theory disturbed me when I read about it. Basically, in my limited layman understanding, a corpus calostomy is a procedure that is sometimes used to treat conditions like epilepsy, where the connections between the two halves of the brain is severed. People can survive this and continue to live semi-normally, but usually with some cognitive impairments. Both halves of the brain continue to be alive, but there's little to no communication between the two sides. People who undergo the procedure can also exhibit some strange phenomena like alien hand syndrome, where the patient feels like some of their limbs will move on their own accord. They can also have difficulty controlling their non-dominant hand, trouble speaking, and issues with certain parts of their vision. The dual consciousness theory posits that both halves of the brain retain a consciousness after this procedure. Essentially, you become two people sharing the same body, completely unaware of each other. One variation of the theory is that one half of the brain is dominant, controlling mostly bodily functions, while the other half is basically cut off from the most external stimuli, unable to communicate with the outside world for the rest of their life. All these theories are concerning, but most of them would kill us immediately without us noticing, and that's fine. Realizing we're going to die as a civilization in a matter of hours or days is what freaks me out the most. The fact that it would take 8 minutes for Earth to know that the sun exploded, and it could have exploded 7 minutes ago. Very true. Potential answer to the Fermi paradox. We've never seen evidence of an alien civilization because no intelligent life survives long after the discovery of nuclear weapons. Well, thanks people. Now I have found another rabbit hole that will keep me entertained. Just the concept of infinity or eternity, regardless of who's correct about what happens when you die, it's terrifying. Either the lights go out for good and your consciousness is lost forever, or the afterlife is a never-ending Groundhog's Day scenario. Gives me anxiety sometimes if I think too deep about it. I had a breakdown in Sunday school some 20-odd years ago about it, and the deacon told me that heaven was so amazing and perfect that eternity was a blessing. I didn't buy it. Having it all end is immensely frightening. Have it never end seems worse. I heard about on another thread about what would be the scariest thing found at the bottom of Marianas Trench, and someone said, the top of a skyscraper. That our universe isn't going to collapse back into a singularity, but continue indefinitely to branch and extend outward until every single atom is stretched outward and apart to its absolute limit, until the entire known universe shatters due to the tension. The theory of proton decay, where every single bit of baryonic matter will eventually just spontaneously dissolve into radiation and fundamental particles, guaranteeing that there will be no survivors at the end of the universe is, yeah, terrible. Solipsism. Basically, there's no way to prove that anyone other than yourself actually exists. You can dive deeper if you like. It's actually pretty interesting. That our consciousness doesn't actually direct our actions, but just makes up stories to explain our actions to itself. Consciousness might be even useful to our evolution. It could just be a weird phenomena that came about as our brains became more complex and developed more self-monitoring systems. That a more stable form of vacuum exists, and if it did, we would collapse into it. It could be headed towards us now, and we literally would never know it's coming. False vacuum decay. In quantum field theory, a false vacuum is a hypothetical vacuum that is stable, but not in the most stable state possible. It is metastable. It may last for a very long time in that state, but could eventually decay to the more stable state. an event known as false vacuum decay. The most common suggestions of how such a decay might happen in our universe is called bubble nucleation. If a small region of the universe by chance reached a more stable vacuum, this bubble, also called bounce, would spread. The theory that F's with me the most is that space is infinite. I can't wrap my head around the idea of something having no boundary or end, and it creeps me out that it's possible. That at any moment, at any given time, some unknown cosmic thing could come from outer space and wipe us out in a blink, i.e. vacuum decay or gamma ray burst. Even our sun could just produce a huge enough solar storm and we're basically doomed. Boltzmann brain F's me up. You're a quantumly spontaneous thing that's kinda like a brain, made randomly at this random state, including the nerve impulses making up your perceptions and memories. This very instant is the only instant that you've existed for. Everything else is a false memory. It will also be your last instant. The Great Filter. The idea that we see no other civilization out in space because they hit some wall that made them go extinct. Whatever it may be, it could be the reason we see no intelligent life out there. The question is, are we past the filter, or is the worst still to come? The inevitable heat death of the universe is a harrowing topic. Essentially, the energy of the known universe is finite and will eventually deplete completely, leaving space as we know it dark, cold, and inert forever. It's difficult to grapple with. The idea that the uncanny valley is because of the ancient hominins we used to interact with during the Pleistocene. Sure, there were interbreeding events, but imagine if you had no idea what a Neanderthal or Denisovan were and saw one for the first time. You and your family have been traveling far from home and seek refuge in a cave for the night. You get a fire going, everyone starts to relax. Then out of nowhere, this almost human-looking being walks up. You all panic and run. Reacting with fear was probably the easiest way to make it out of an encounter like that alive. The theory that an all-out nuclear war wouldn't destroy nearly as much of civilization as we think. If this theory becomes widely accepted, the chances of a nuclear war happening becomes more likely. What if our understandings of physics and science, what we base our whole lives around, is just wrong? A man born without eyes cannot see. What if we're missing a huge chunk of reality simply due to an inability to detect it? Once we develop virtual reality that is indistinguishable from our own, which it seems we are on our way to achieving, the question becomes, how do we know that it didn't happen already? Eternal recurrence suggests that the universe will be reborn again over and over endlessly, and so we also will be forced to relive the same life just as many times. Take a moment to consider your odds of being here, now, with infinite time before and after you. That humans may not have the ability to comprehend everything in the universe, like literally, physically impossible for our brains to grasp it. A gorilla is only 1% behind us on the evolutionary scale, and what we see as amazing, such as them painting, is what our infants are doing. If there is an intelligent species even 1% further than us, their infants are doing astrophysics, and their adults are doing things every day that our brains couldn't comprehend. The universal common ancestor theory, that all life evolved from a single cell 3.5 billion years ago. Think about the infinity of generations of beings fighting to survive, only for you to read this comment that we're about one big family killing each other for 3.5 billion years and counting. If you get blasted with a ton of radiation, your body instantly dies, but you will keep living for a while. Potentially weeks, like the Japanese nuclear plant worker who took more radiation than anyone else in history. Your DNA will shatter throughout your body, meaning all cells die. They will never be replaced again. Your body essentially starts rotting while you're still using it. Not a theory in the common usage of the term, just a scary fact. The rest of the universe is expanding at such a rate that in, I'm guessing the timescale can't actually recall the real number, a few billion of years, all the galaxies we can see now will be so far away that their light would never again reach Earth. So, if you look out through a telescope after that time, there would be no indication of a universe larger than a handful of galaxies in what is known as the local group. It would be impossible to ever know there was more beyond those. And, just to add, because I'm sure it will be asked, the universe is expanding faster than the speed of light. Hence, the light ceases to be able to reach us. Yes, space can expand faster than light. It's not limited by the speed of light because space itself, that's expanding, not something that's traveling through space, which would be limited to the speed of light. The dark forest theory, that there are lots of other advanced civilizations out there in space, but they're concealing their presence because they know how suicidally dangerous it is to be broadcasting your planet's location out to the universe. SETI paradox. Every civilization itself, but none speak because of fear of something happening to them if communication is achieved. Aliens Theory by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Let's say intelligence is your ability to compose poetry, symphonies, do art, math, and science. Chimps can't do any of that, yet we share 99% DNA. Everything that we are, that distinguishes us from chimps, emerges from that 1% difference. Imagine a life form whose brain power is to ours as ours is to a chimpanzee's. To such a species, our highest mental achievements would be trivial. Their toddlers, instead of learning their ABCs on Sesame Street, would learn multivariable calculus on Boolean Boulevard. Our most complex theorems, our deepest philosophies, the cherished works of our most creative artists would be projects their school kids bring home for mom and dad to display on the refrigerator door. Scary. Personally, I think reincarnation is terrifying. The knowledge of spending decades of a life you may or may not enjoy just for all of it to be forgotten in the long run. The planetarium theory, which says we're nothing more than Sims in someone's active program. Lucky for us, we keep them amused. Not only solves the Fermi paradox, but also explains the high level of crazy in our species. The single electron theory. A positron is identical to an electron moving backwards through time, and since all electrons and all positrons have identical, to the best of our current knowledge, properties, it's possible that all the electrons and all the positrons in the universe is just one particle moving forwards and backwards through time. This means that the future is already decided and there is no free will. A lot of people like to believe that their loved ones are watching over them after they pass on. It's comforting to them when they need comfort, but when they don't, or they're taking care of their own, they don't really think about it. So, imagine if it's true. You die, and you basically enter spectator mode, like in gaming, where you wait to respawn but watch others unable to participate. You can go wherever you want, so obviously you see the world, the 7 wonders, and all that, but you basically hang around your family. You try to offer comfort when they need it, but you see people as they are, being dirty slobs and going to the bathroom and having sex and other stuff that you really don't want to see. Eventually you stop caring, it stops bothering you, and on you go, until you're forgotten. Some say everyone dies twice. First, when the body dies, and second, when the last person who remembered you thinks about you for the last time, you being never thought of again. Have I kept my father tethered to this world? I think about him every day, and it's been over 20 years. I can't say he wouldn't be proud of me, because I'm mostly happy, but my life hasn't turned out like he might have wanted. Still, it's my life, and I'm okay with it.